What's up, guys? We are back with another G.I. Joe Classified Series review, and we're back with another movie figure. We tackled Snake Eyes already, so of course that means Storm Shadow is up next. I mean, when it comes down to it, these are the two most important characters in the film, so of course, gotta take a look at the both of them back to back. This guy, just like Snake Eyes, does come in the standard Classified Series box because, of course, as I sort of forgot, didn't notice, pay attention, whatever, these are just part of the main line. They're not even a subset of the line. So they are in the same style packaging, but it is black this time around. So, you know, you've got the sort of oddball shaped window. You've got the artwork there in the corner. We do have a Snake Eyes movie call out. And then the side panel has got some more of that character specific artwork. You do have the sort of stat panel that runs down the other side. Storm Shadow is number 17. And then the back panel is the same sort of movie poster image that we see on the rest of the wave. So Snake Eyes, Storm Shadow, and Baroness in this first initial push will all get that same backer artwork. So let's do it. Let's pull them out and take a look. And here we go, out of the package, our movie Storm Shadow. Another figure very much like Snake Eyes that is very par for the course when it comes to this line. There's really not anything different or unique about this particular figure when it comes to construction. Obviously, this is a very different look for Storm Shadow in a number of ways. It is, but I guess it isn't too. So let's see what he can do, see how he moves around. We've got our head that can look up really good. He can look down, but only slightly. It's because of like the collar kerchief thing he's got going on here. Neck is independently articulated, but it's not as helpful as Snake Eyes is. You've got a little bit of tilt side to side, and then you've got your rotation as well. Arms go out at the shoulders. They, of course, rotate. You do have a slight butterfly joint, and it's not super helpful, but it doesn't hurt either by any means. We've got our bicep swivel. You've, of course, got double jointed elbows, so he gets really good range there. And then you've got vertical hinges and rotation at the wrist, which, of course, is very useful because, of course, he's a sword wielder. You've got your ab crunch, so he goes forward about that far. Pretty good, honestly. And then he goes backwards. Of course, you've got to watch your swords because of what I'm doing right now, if they're in his back. If not, take that one out. He moves backwards just fine otherwise, so that's not really a concern. He's probably going to have him in his hand more often than not. And then you've got your waist twist, so he'll swivel all the way around. He does have the floating sort of skirt piece here with the belt. It's rubbery, so it is going to move, but it's not super pliable either. Legs drop down, and then they go out. This is another instance where the little skirt piece is going to get in the way. So they can go out, but they do sort of get in the way. He kicks forward, and I'm going to say right now, mine seem really stiff. Like the joint at the crotch for the legs for mine seem really stiff. Not in a sense that I'm worried about it, but it seems odd at the same time. You can kick backwards a little bit. You do have your thigh twist up here. We've got double jointed knees, of course. That's as far back as they're going to go right there. So basically kicking his butt. So that's all right. Very easy to move, nothing stiff from the thighs down. And then you've got your rocker, and you've got hinges down at those ankles, and they have really good range too. Really nothing in the way on that guy. So he does move really well. Again, par for the course for the line. So it's not a negative when I say he moves like the rest of the figures. He is very similar to Snake Eyes in terms of his construction, and you should be able to pull off some very dynamic ninja-esque poses without much hassle. Now, aesthetically, this is where, of course, things are going to be I don't know, I guess a your mileage may vary kind of situation. Do you like this color scheme? Do you like this design or not? And I'm kind of in a half in, half out with this particular figure. I like a lot about the way he's sculpted, and I like the overall look. It's very much along the lines of the Snake Eyes figure, where he's a very modern-ish interpretation on a Storm Shadow figure. But the color scheme, I still think leaves a little bit to be desired. It's just not doing it for me in every respect. It's not as bad as I thought it was going to be, but it's still not the classic look. And obviously, that's not what this is going for. It is a bit of a departure in some ways. Maybe a more real-world interpretation. I'm not really sure if a stark white ninja can or can't exist in the real world, but, this guy is a very, cream, off-white kind of color, and it's just kind of it's just kind of blah. Like, there's really nothing exciting about the overall color scheme for this figure for me. I do, however, like the silver piping that we've got that runs down the chest and along kind of like the fringes of, is it sort of like a vest almost in some ways, and then it wraps around to the backside. But the rest of this figure is 100% unpainted, except for, well, of course, the eyes. But I do like the overall sculpt. I mean, there's a lot of wrinkles and folds and plating and texture on this figure. I mean, even the boots, the ankles, the feet themselves are really textured. There's a lot of kind of armor plating there. You've got kind of like a weave mesh that runs down the gauntlet area, kind of like the wrist guards and the gloves. But for the most part, it's just I'm not the biggest fan of the color kind of situation. I do think he looks really good. I'm just not on the camp that really likes this. I think I would prefer a very stark white, super bright, vibrant Storm Shadow. And that's one of the things where you might like this more than me, you might like this less than me. I do think that the sculpt, however, is really good, and I'm really curious to see how this translates into something that someone's wearing on screen, just to see how it works and how it moves, because once I see it in action, you know, I certainly might be a little bit more interested in it. I do think, however, that one of the best aspects of this entire figure is the head sculpt. Sizing is really well done. There's a nice texture and kind of a weave mesh, just like on the wrist guards, along the mouth for the figure, and then the eyes. I'm not very familiar with the actor that's playing Storm Shadow, but you know, going back and just looking at a few shots, there is a solid likeness here to his eye line and just the overall face sculpt and features that they've got present here. Eyes are super clean and crisp. So are the eyebrows. It just looks good. It's a very classic-esque ninja style head, helmet, face guard, mask, whatever you want to call it. Again, it just suffers a little bit for me personally because I'm not the biggest fan of this sort of, I still don't even know what to call this, beige, off-white, cream, goop kind of color. I do think I'd like a bit brighter, whiter, more vibrant, but otherwise the sculpt is definitely there. The details are very much on point, and it's a really nice looking figure once you either get past or just plain accept the color change here. And then as far as the accessories goes, Storm Shadow is very much par for the course when it comes to this line. He doesn't have a ton of stuff though, and I'm not really sure what more he could or should have, since I've still not seen this movie, obviously. But the big thing is the unmasked head sculpt that we get here, and I think this looks really good. I think this is, as far as the two unmasked head sculpts that we get between himself and Snake Eyes, I think this is my preference. I do think this looks really good. I mean, this is just a solid head sculpt. The paint on it is really nicely done. Really digging that scar that he's got on his face, and the hair is nicely sculpted, pretty well painted. It's nothing too crazy as far as just a Hasbro style head, but the face is really well done. Likeness is great. Overall paint, sculpt, it's just very much on point, and I'm very happy with that. Whereas I probably wouldn't use the Snake Eyes head, I could see myself using this. I think this works a little bit better for an unmasked Storm Shadow than Snake Eyes does as an unmasked Snake Eyes, if that makes any sense at all. And then he does come with his swords and the sheath to actually hold it, so that pegs onto his back. And then you get two of these swords. They're the same sword, nothing different about them. So silver blade with a little gold accent, and you've got the black and the sort of off-white bone cream color handle that will match his armor, his suit. So you've got two of those, and they look good on his back. They very much fit, very Storm Shadow-esque as well. So again, not a lot of stuff, but exactly kind of the base amount of things you would expect to have with a Storm Shadow kind of figure. My only disappointment is that Snake Eyes gets a couple extra things. It would have been nice if they had been able to throw a couple extra hands in this box, or any box in this little subset of figures, to be honest. And then of course we have to do our comparison between our movie Storm Shadow and our classified series Storm Shadow. And of course, we don't have a classic Storm Shadow in any capacity style figure in the classified line. All we have is the Arctic version so far, which honestly I'm a big fan of because I love this kind of design when it comes to Joes. You know, like I said, I'm not a Joe purist by any means, so a lot of the more I don't know, late 80s, early 90s, kind of more ridiculous kind of things definitely work for me. So I do really like this Storm Shadow. There's just not a lot to compare to. He is also another character that kind of suffers a little bit from not having some of that super bright classic white. But this guy is even more off-white than our Arctic Storm Shadow. So there's your idea of what they look like next to each other. Again, not a lot to compare to, but just to give you an idea of what the two Storm Shadows that we have in the line look like when stacked up next to each other. So overall, this is a really solid figure. Just like Snake Eyes, I think it's a really solid figure. My one gripe just comes down to kind of the design aspect of it. I'm not the biggest fan of this bone off-white color. That's really all it comes down to. I don't think it makes the figure any less exciting or fun to pose and play around with, though. He moves really well. The overall sculpt and design of this suit and this armor I am very much here for, and he comes with a rather small but impactful set of accessories because the swords are very classic Storm Shadow, and the head is also a really well done alternate head if you want to go with an unmasked route. If he were a super bright, like Snow White Storm Shadow, I think I'd be over the moon with him, but the color is just not there for me. It's not my cup of tea, but otherwise I do think this is a solid entry in the line. So that's going to do it for this look at the movie Storm Shadow. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.